Hello and welcome to this review of page 25. Our aim is to cover everything on this page within the next 7 minutes. Let's get started. You do know initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling and closing, and the 10 knowledge areas: integration, scope, schedule, cost, quality, resources, communications, risk, procurement, and stakeholder management. The very first process that maps in here is develop project charter, where we create a project charter that authorizes the project. The next thing you should do in project management is think about those people who the project could affect or could be affected by the project and better understand the stakeholders. Then we move into develop project management plan, where we begin to create a skeletal project management plan, but then begins to get populated with the scope management plan from plan scope management and other details along the way. We collect requirements and we come out with a requirements traceability matrix, requirements documentation. We move into defining the scope, the boundaries, the inclusions and the exclusions, and then we create a work breakdown structure, which really is in the output from Create WBS known as the scope baseline. We then move into planning schedule management, and then we begin defining the activities. We come out with an activity list. We then sequence the activities. We estimate the durations for those activities. And finally, we put all that together into a schedule. Then we talk about cost management. We create a cost management plan. We estimate how much each task will cost, or we could cluster it into a work package. And then we roll all of those work packages up to determine the final budgeted amount. Could also think about this as the cost baseline and project funding requirements, not just in total, but periodically as well. Next, we move into plan quality management, where we derive a quality management plan and quality metrics. In plan resource management, we create a resource management plan, and we also derive a team charter to guide how the team behaves. Then we are involved in estimating activity resources. We obtain resource requirements, a basis of estimates. We also have our resource breakdown structure. And then we move into communications, where we plan communications management and we derive a communications management plan. We then move into risk management, where we plan risk management, and some of the things in our risk management plan need to be our risk strategy, overarching strategy, our risk methodology, the tools we're using. Then we move into identifying risks, analyzing risks qualitatively. This is where we categorize and prioritize risks initially. We move into quantitative risk analysis, and in perform quantitative risk analysis, we look at the aggregate effect of risks on the project. This is where we derive the expected monetary value. Then we plan risk responses based on what we know. Then we move into plan procurement management, planning how to manage procurements and contracts. We move into plan stakeholder engagement. Now that we have our stakeholder register from Identify Stakeholders, we can plan how to manage our stakeholders' engagement. Moving into executing, we direct and manage project work as a whole, and we get the issue log, we get deliverables, and we get work performance data. We move into manage project knowledge, and the hindsight, the understanding of what went well and what didn't, is put into a lessons learned register. There's a big jump all the way down to quality, and we manage quality, assuring customers that quality standards are being met. And then we go into resources, where we acquire resources, we develop the team through training and team building, and we manage team, which is really code for leading the team. We move into managed communications, where we get an output known as project communications, memos, emails, communications that might have transpired that we will archive. And we move into risk, where we implement the risk responses that we planned. We then conduct procurement. We select the sellers here, and we award contracts. And moving into managed stakeholder engagement, the final one, this is where we actively communicate and work with our stakeholders to keep them engaged on the project. In monitoring and controlling, we start off with monitor and control project work, where we generate work performance reports, which become an input to the next process, perform integrated change control. And this is also where all change requests go as an input. The output that we get, approved change request. Don't forget, we have the change log, which is listed as a project document update, but is a very important output of perform integrated change control because that is where all the updates to the change request live. Then we move into validate scope. This is where the customer inspects the deliverable or the sponsor or the end user and either approve or reject it. Control scope is where the project manager prevents scope creep and gold plating. Control schedule is where the project manager prevents schedule delays. Control cost is where the project manager prevents cost overruns. Control quality is where the deliverable initially gets checked by the people who make it, known as the performing organization, before it goes to the customer in validate scope, which we just looked at. Then we talk about control resources, which is where physical resources are controlled. We monitor the use of the physical resources. We monitor the availability and ensure that everything is going according to plan and take action if not. Monitor communications is where we monitor the communications. The same for risk. In monitor risk, this is where we observe how our risk activities have proceeded and if our actions and methods are really working. Control procurements is where we manage and monitor the contract. And last but not least, we have monitor stakeholder engagement. Monitoring the stakeholders' engagement and making sure, according to the stakeholder engagement assessment matrix, our stakeholder engagement objectives are being met. Last but not least, we have close project or phase, where we close out either a phase in the project or the project as a whole. Don't forget the zip code, 2, 24, 10, 12, and 1. We also have the phone number, 766-436-3734. I hope this helps you in your project management journey. Don't forget to share with your friends.